Welcome to Unbound Specials. Today we are in conversation with a woman leader who is an embodiment of resilience, authenticity and courage herself. Dr. Anuradha Mathad brings over 2 decades of experience in wellness and Ayurveda. Integrating the two modalities, she has been at the helm of changing luxury wellness. From changing global wellness and luxury experiences to living a life on her own terms, Dr. Anuradha Mathad's story not only truly resonates, but it deeply transforms. From shaping global wellness cultures to navigating life's most challenging situations, her journey is transformative, inspiring, and deeply, deeply human. And this episode is about healing, wellness, and choosing yourself again and again. So let's get started with Dr. Anuradha Mathad. Bringing straight away Anuradha ji to you. Welcome to the show.
Much. Thank you. And thank you so much for being so patient and consistent with me. Finally, you're here.
Anuradha ji, your journey is so inspirational. And I've been a great admirer of your work, not only in the space of industry and sector, which is wellness, but also the way that you have led your life with true authenticity. What do you have to say just about authenticity? Is it easy?
Authenticity needs a lot of resilience and commitment to living life by principles. Yes.
And
it is not easy.
It's not easy.
But I can say it's very fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Diving into your professional journey, you are a wellness expert, you are an Ayurvedic doctor, you are a Reiki healer, channel, you're a meditation coach, you do so many things. I mean, obviously coming from the sector of well-being.
Right.
How did you really tread this path and got on to this journey? ये हमें शुरू से तो पता नहीं होता है ना, जब हम ऐसा कोई choice लेते हैं हमें नहीं पता होता है that we'll end up here, right?
So not a regular choice, isn't
yeah.
it? Yes. So I, little bit to where I come from.
Absolutely.
I come from a small town known as Hubli in north of Karnataka. And born and raised in a family with very conservative values, parents both being professors. Very subtly, it was hammered from very early childhood that academically you have to do very well. And, you know, if parents are professors, how it is. And so I always wanted to become a doctor. And I pursued that. My first choice was, of course, MBBS. My percentage was not high enough. And so I chose next option was BAMS, that is Ayurveda. That's how I got into Ayurvedic medicine as a profession. And as I got into it, the other things that you mentioned about, you know, being a Reiki channel, meditation and yoga, and these are all allied sciences. So my basic qualification has been in Ayurveda. However, I have over the years, and I continue to, every year I do learn something new, which is somewhere related to this field.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've been a part of luxury industry.
Yes.
Right. And you've been setting the voice for it as well. Because like back in those years when you were someone who had joined, how has the landscape been evolving and changing specific to India?
Specific to India, I must tell you, when I graduated, that was in the year 2000, and I started working. There were I can say broadly two sets of people from the profession, from our profession. You know, one who would pursue completely on the clinical side.
Yeah.
And there was another set of people who would probably explore the non-clinical, not very clinical, but more wellness, you know, a broader set of wellness. But wellness industry as such in India from around 1994 to about 2000, 2002, 2004 also was heavily on Ayurveda.
Right.
Okay, I would say a lot of upscale luxury 5-star hotel chains used to outsource their space to an Ayurvedic organization, or even if they operated themselves, it was more on Ayurveda.
So it still had a medical
there would be an Ayurvedic doctor, or they would, you know, outsourced to a spa operator per se. Spa as such was not so well defined, I would say. It was and it is still an emerging industry. It's a very changing industry. And then things slowly started changing. So the very Ayurvedic part of it, right? I think Kerala took over that.
Right.
So you still have that in Kerala.
Right.
And the rest of the industry, we still have Ayurveda. They do serve Ayurveda in some diluted form.
As we understand today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that has been something which I, if we're doing something authentic, then let's do it authentic. Okay? I do not propagate the dilution of any form of, traditional medicine system, whether it is TCM or whether it is Ayurveda or any other form.
Yeah.
I think it has to be done in its authentic form.
Backstage, when we were talking, you were definitely pointing out that Ayurveda as a concept, how we understand, is still very restrictive and very undermined in that sense, We are still not looking at it in a very holistic or a lifestyle way.
Right.
What are the missing links?
So what I see, most people understand most of the, I would say in Indian context, okay, Ayurveda is mostly understood more on a clinical side, I would say. The moment you talk of Ayurveda, things that come to people's mind is the Vata, Pitta, Kapha, my body type. I'm the Vata, I'm the Pitta type. Another thing that comes to people's mind is the kadas, the bad tasting, unpalatable kadas. Herbs and Panchakarma. People know the word Panchakarma. And also what mostly comes to people's mind is, of course, massage. And then the Shirodhara, because I think it is marketed heavily by showing a Shirodhara pot.
Right.
And also diet. You're not supposed to eat this, you're not supposed to eat that. So that is what is mostly general perception. I'm not saying everybody, but a general perception.
Yeah.
But it is very important to understand the basic principles of Ayurveda. And there are very beautiful concepts, very beautiful principles that are timeless. They are relevant at all times and to all beings. It all depends on how you interpret it.
Contextually, it stays true for today also.
Absolutely. I will tell you
Give us some examples.
Three pillars of Ayurveda.
Yeah, please.
It says Ahara, Nidra and Brahmacharya. Ahara is nutrition, right? It's not just what you eat, also how you digest and assimilate.
Okay.
Nidra, sleep. And then Brahmacharya, its literal translation can be, celibacy, but it is not so. Brahmacharya is interpreted also as exercising moderation in everything you do in your life.
Oh, like a balance.
Yes, just moderation in everything. Yeah. And look at how much, now you see today you talk about nutrition, who is not talking about nutrition? Who is not talking about sleep? Sleep has become a major concern these days. There are sleep doctors, sleep specialists. Yeah. And moderation, of course, is so much required. I think we've gone through a whole cycle of indulgence and now coming back to moderation.
The basics.
Yes, basics. Yeah. There's one more very beautiful, I really like this, the process of, how a disease manifests. It's all about the Vata, Pitta, Kapha. It's all energies, different kinds of energies that we have. So it talks about, first these disturbed energy or unbalanced energy. There is Chaya, which means it starts accumulating. Okay. Toxic energy, basically, you can call it. Then Prakopa, then it increases. It really gets exacerbated. And then Chaya, Prakopa, Prasara, then it starts moving. And then it leaves its own place and goes and lodges itself into others' place. And then it starts manifesting. It starts showing symptoms, signs, everything. And then leads to the complication state. Right. Now, when literally, if you just look at it from a dosha point of view, it may not make sense. But just apply it to other things. Yeah. Whether it is toxic thoughts, toxic feelings, toxic or unhealthy food habits, not exercising. All of this, it takes time. You keep accumulating. And then it really becomes too much. For your system to hold, and then it starts moving, right? Even thoughts and emotions also. Like how long can you hold on to negative thoughts and emotions? They will start impacting the surroundings around you.
Yeah, your environment.
Right?
Tapping into that a little more, of course, Ayurveda is something that you made as a logical choice because of whatever was happening at the academic front. But once you chose the profession,
right?
How have you evolved as a professional in that sense. So Reiki and other all of this guidance and learnings have come eventually, or you have gone and seeked it, or did it make a very befitting sort of compatibility with whatever you were doing? It kind of merged with that.
I think I had an inclination.
Okay.
There was an inclination towards these kind of sciences from the
Sciences,
beginning.
yeah.
If I see Reiki, if I were to say, I was in the second year of Ayurveda. I had typhoid at that time, and my exams were nearing, so I had to come home. And typhoid, was giving me headache, like a dull, nagging headache. And my father actually went and attended a Reiki workshop
Acha.
in my hometown, and when he came back home, he had to practice it for 21 days. And I was telling him, complaining of
Self-healing,
for
hands-on healing,
headache, and then he just did he placed his hands on my forehead and this and that, and then I started feeling better. I didn't have
You
to.
did?
Yes, and it was like I had not heard that before, the word Reiki also.
Yeah.
So then I told my father that once I finish my exams, I also want to do it. So
Yeah.
that's how it started. But I personally look out, seek these kind of programs, and then it kind of fits in.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
you've been like a learner.
Learner, yes, I continue
Of
to.
life.
Now, in the last 3-4 years, it's been more on sound as a
Sound
therapy. Yes.
Okay. And are you able to integrate this with your Ayurvedic concepts?
Yes.
Do they work well for
they,
you?
They complement very well.
Yeah, give us some examples. Something which is like a daily habit or a practice which you are taking it up to, till now you were taking it under Ayurveda, and now you have also imbibed Reiki and you're doing
So
it
in
together.
the hospitality
Sector.
space where I
Mm,
work, in the spas where we work with wellness, there are Ayurvedic treatments.
Right.
Okay, say for example, someone wants to take a treatment for better enhancing quality of sleep or to de-stress themselves. So say we've given them a treatment that involves Shirodhara, for example, and say if it's a 5 days or a 7 days program, then we'll definitely recommend a sound healing session along with it. It helps. It definitely enhances the overall effect of the therapy.
The therapy.
Yes.
Okay. So whatever you're doing externally gets aligned with your
yes
internal.
And it's also very important to understand the science behind it, and also to have the right kind of training partners, also to have your people trained, because today if you talk of anything, this whole industry is a very woo world.
What do you mean by woo?
This people claiming big things, like you will find these bowls anywhere and everywhere, and so it doesn't work like that. So this is physics behind it. It works on law of entrainment.
Okay.
So it talks.
Please take us through that.
Sure. So it says that if there are two objects oscillating at two different frequencies.
Right.
Okay, so I'm one object, you are another object, for example. We are oscillating at two different frequencies. In the sense, our thoughts are vibrating at two different frequencies. If you bring those two objects in proximity over a period of time, they will start oscillating at the same frequency.
Oh, wow.
You can experiment and see, take two pendulums of two different size and two different people's hands, oscillate them, bring them little closer, just hold them. They will start oscillating at the same frequency.
Wow.
So with the sound, it can be anything. It can be singing bowl, it can be tuning fork, or any other form of sound that is used. You produce a certain frequency. Say somebody is not able to sleep, but there is a certain frequency for inducing sleep. That starts working on the brain waves. Our brain waves have those 4 frequencies, right? Beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And then our brains, so it induces the brain into a sleep mode.
Wow.
That's how it works.
Right.
So, it works very well. But what is important, again, as I told you, we started with authenticity.
Yeah.
So, to find authenticity, to find authentic suppliers who customize these things for you, to find authentic trainers who've really done work, that's very important. Otherwise, these days they're making you Reiki masters in one day. You cannot become a Reiki master by 2 days of workshop. My teacher told me I couldn't do the second level of Reiki. Even after 2.5 years, she did not say I was ready, because you have to practice. One has to practice. It has to be internalized. It is a sadhana, no?
Looking at your personal journey, I know there have been
Yes.
Quite a few bumps.
Quite a few.
Quite a few.
Some large, quite large.
Craters.
Yes.
Take us through how life has been for you. I mean, obviously, you chose this profession and then there was a calling and you moved outside of the country also, right? So take us through that journey.
Yes.
And how have you dared? What made you dare? As a woman, we need to understand that we need to stand for ourselves. So when did that lightning moment happen?
Yes, I will definitely take you through that. Um, as mentioned, I was studying Ayurveda. I finished my studies in the year 2000. And I got married the year 2001. Went to Mumbai, started working in Ayurvedic, centers, which had clinic and retreatment center, Kerala based.
Okay.
Um, and in that process, I was looking out for opportunities to go out of India and work, because whatever I was earning in India was not enough. And I was, just on the way to becoming a mother. I was bringing another life on this earth. And if there were, the thought of not having enough money to raise a child was not putting me in a good space. So I had got this opportunity to work in Canada. Though that offer letter had come 11 months back and then the visa never came, I had actually given up on it. But then just my pregnancy was confirmed, and on that day I got a call that my visa has come through, work visa.
But that's a daring move.
It was, my gynecologist had told me that I should be on bed rest. Otherwise, there will be consequences to it. And from inside my heart, I didn't want to go because I was scared of losing the baby. So then I said, no, I have to be able to provide a good life and good education to this child. So I must take this up. And so I went for the first time to a wellness retreat in Canada. I went as a resident doctor, as an Ayurveda doctor. That was a turning point, because that changed a lot for me, not just from a professional point of view, but also it gave me the time to introspect. So that helped me. And first time I was in a wellness retreat, I didn't know what is a spa. Though I went there to introduce Ayurveda, I introduced Panchakarma there. I'm very happy about, except Vamana, we did everything there. And when I went, there was supposed to be an Ayurvedic therapist also coming over, but then they did not turn up. And so it happened that I had to do treatments also. I had to do consultations and do treatments, consultation, treatment. I used to almost end up doing maximum 6 treatments in a day. When I say treatments, Abhyanga, Pindasveda, Shirodhara, actually working on the body, on treatments.
But you were yourself
I was
carrying...
Yes. So I did it till I was 7 months pregnant, where the tummy started coming between me and the table. And plus in the morning, because I was a resident doctor, I would do the morning yoga sessions. Of course, later part of pregnancy, I only took pranayama and meditation sessions. And then, of course, eventually I did only other treatments, which did not involve. I came back only at 34 weeks of pregnancy.
Okay, you did come back.
I did come back to deliver. Though I had an option to deliver there. Too many other logistics involved, so I came back to deliver.
Yeah.
Yes, but those 7 months really made me think to myself what this whole thing is about. And I knew that I had to really watch. I became aware of all the red flags. You see, we didn't have this terminology red flag then. I wish we had. But it gave me enough time to introspect. And so I became very aware. I was very vigilant when I came back.
Yeah. One thing that you would, in moments like these, when you are so vulnerable and so prone to just, go anywhere. You could just tip off this side also and you could tip off this side also. Something specifically to the women when they are so vulnerable and they are just so out of sync. What's that one thing you'd like to tell them, just as women?
Seek help. You need someone to talk to. And a safe space, basically. not some random person. Okay, it's very important to have that support. And in my case, initially, of course, my father did not ask me to adjust, but then when I actually took a call of getting separated when my son was a 20 days baby.
Oh, okay. So soon after you came back, you delivered,
Yes,
and
I
within 20
delivered.
days
Yes,
you
because I
knew.
was very, very observant. All that was happening, the person's behavior. I literally, my antennas were up, and then I decided this is it. And then, of course, I still gave some more time till it was about 5 months. Then I said, no, now I will see you in the court only. Enough of it. Then I told my father also, I don't need you to provide me roof over the head or to raise my. If I can give birth, I can raise also.
Wow.
At that time, my father said that, no, I will not let you go anywhere. I know I've done a mistake. So they've really stood by me, my parents.
Yeah.
It was not easy, focusing on the profession and raising a child
Yeah.
together. So they've been very supportive. So I think
Yeah.
we need a safe space as women when we're going through these things. And today, next year, I turn 50, and I'm just coming back from a trip with my school besties, 4 of us.
And you're glowing.
And the more and more we talk about it, we realize that you need a good set of girlfriends, a safe
Right.
space who are there to hold you, who have your back. I think that's what is required.
Yeah.
And we have to find it. If we don't find it in the family, then we have to find it
Outside.
somewhere. Yes.
Somewhere.
We
Yeah.
have to.
Moving the lens to your professional life and your work, and plus integrated personal life, you're really changing the waves, right? You've of course entered into the sector when there was pretty much nothing on the anvil.
Yes.
It wasn't even, people weren't even sure कि ये कितना चलने भी वाला है कि नहीं. It was a very niche luxury, hospitality segments only that were offering these kind of services in
Yes.
wellness and spa. From there to coming where you are today, and you're at the top of your game. So, and you are leading with so many changes yourself. What is, and how are you contributing it back is also a question that I want to bring in. But what kept you going even in this sector? Like, of course, somewhere there was internalization of everything that you were doing outside,
Yes.
you were internalizing. But what kept you going and building here?
So, in my role, I've grown up the ladder in hospitality. For the first 5 years, as I told you, I was purely on the clinical side.
Yeah.
Then going to Canada was more like an Ananda kind
Yeah.
of a thing, a wellness retreat that opened me up to another world. And I did go and do my DNM, Doctor of Natural Medicine,
Okay.
in Canada.
Okay.
And then when I came back to India and joined hotels as an Ayurvedic doctor, and then eventually grew up the ladder, somewhere I was able to see the way Ayurveda was offered in a very diluted manner. And so I kept kind of, I've been like trying to keep it as clean as possible,
Right. As authentic.
as authentic as possible. I've also felt very strongly about, hotels operating spas as, most 5-star hotels changed on their website from spa to wellness. They just replaced, but nothing in wellness was happening. Mostly operating as luxurious massage parlors, I would call them.
Right.
Everything started and ended in massage, very transactional, and that's something which I wanted to change. And that I have been for the last 10 years, I can say. It had to be more meaningful, purposeful. Wellness cannot be transactional.
Right.
Wellness has to be very functional. It has to be transformational.
Right.
And so that's what I kept doing. And a give back is the people, because this works on people. There are no robots doing anything, it's people. And a very unregulated industry, because the service providers, there's no regulatory bodies that can bring them up to the level of nurses. It should actually be at that level, but it's not,
Really?
unfortunately.
That recognition and repute.
That recognition, repute, that
Honor.
kind of accreditation is not there. And so I've spent a lot of time. I do still spend. I think I've probably spent more time with therapists, spa therapists, than with my own son.
Okay.
I am a hands-on person. I still train them, doing treatments. They're very few Ayurvedic doctors who would like to
Yeah.
do treatments, but I still, because till I do it myself, I don't have the satisfaction. And yes, in the current project that I am, we, have worked very hard as a team in developing training modules, giving, not just doing also knowledge based, making them, enhancing them to wellness practitioner level. So that's a give back to the industry. And I would appeal, through, if this podcast is really going out, I would like to appeal that this profession should be enhanced or brought up to the level of, nursing profession.
Nursing profession.
Yes, because therapists contribute a lot towards somebody's wellness or well-being.
Right. There was some anecdotes or examples where you have seen it practically work in someone's life to
yes,
that
yes.
extent.
I would really like, and I quote this example during trainings also.
Yeah.
There used to be a surgeon, when I worked in Chennai, there used to be a surgeon who used to come twice a month from Coimbatore to Chennai, actually book a room in our hotel. And before coming, he will call me and he will ask that particular therapist if she is available.
Okay.
And if it happened to be her weekly off or something, he will ask me to please make some changes. So 2 days he will take massage therapy from that particular therapist. And I thought maybe he comes to Chennai on some work. But after 2 years, I thought I should ask him. I asked him that what does he come to Chennai for? And then he said, Anuradha, these 2 days, once in 15 days, when I come and take massage therapy from this particular therapist, I can go back to Coimbatore and then do my surgeries for the next 14 days.
Oh, wow.
I don't want to take painkillers. So that was the role that therapist was playing in his life.
Wow.
And I have so many such anecdotes. There was another gentleman in another spa that I worked. He started coming initially for massage therapies, and then he ended up coming 3 days in a week.
Really?
And I was like little, though it meant money and revenue to our spa, I still thought it's maybe not very good. So I went up to him and I told him, maybe you should come once a week. And then he told me, unfortunately, Anuradha, my sleep has become very expensive. I sleep only when I come to your spa.
What?
Yes. And these are real time stories I'm sharing. So, which means therapists, spa, wellness, they're all very, a lot of times people, misinterpret the word spa and wellness. It's very important to understand. Wellness is an actively pursued goal. You're actively making choices
And it's
to live well.
contributing.
Yes,
It's
what you eat,
contributing.
how you sleep, how much you exercise, what you do for self-care. These are the choices. That's wellness. And once you're consistent with those choices, you attain a certain state of being that is well-being. And spa provides the space and the expertise and the people for someone to pursue wellness. So spas are very personal spaces in that sense. And I think that message should go out very loud and clear in countries like India.
Yeah.
Spas are not places for self-indulgence.
Yeah.
They are for you to reconnect with yourself. I think that's very important.
To reconnect with yourself. That's
Yes.
very well said.
Yes.
Again, coming back to all your accomplishments and achievements, you've won many industry honors, many things you are committed to do within this space. What's next on the block? I know you've just launched a project too. Do you want to talk about that briefly? What is that different that you are creating under that?
Under that, what we have done is we've worked on the core concept is based on Panchakoshas, which is rooted in Ayurveda and yoga. It's a very beautiful concept. It talks about human well-being in 5 layers, human existence actually.
Okay.
The physical body, then you have the breath, then you have the space of your feelings or emotions, and then the space of thoughts, and then the innermost pure consciousness. So according to this philosophy, wellness or well-being is when all these 5 layers are in harmony or in balance. It is not enough if you just look after the physical body and ignore your space of your emotions and thoughts. So all have to be in a state of balance. So that's the core concept. As much as it looks very interesting, to translate this into tangible experiences was a challenge. So we made that happen. And also in this whole endeavor, the idea was not to make wellness something make it sound difficult. We don't want to shoo away our guests. We want to make it something so interesting that wherever anybody is on their path to wellness, some people may be very advanced already, maybe already an advanced yoga practitioner. Someone may already be very much into their nutrition and diet. Someone may be taking baby steps into it. We've done it in such a way that there is something for everybody. Yes, it's just the beginning. We still have a long way to go. For me personally, in this journey, what I would eventually want to do is, as I told you, I'm a hands-on person. I also continue to learn new practices, new techniques, and then I work on myself and then only implement. So I would probably want to do some retreats, be a visiting wellness practitioner.
Okay.
Yeah. At some point, I think.
Would you want to curate these retreats?
Yes.
Okay.
Curate, yes.
So has this triggered any story, idea or thought in you? Or do you have a story to tell yourself? Then reach out to me at Unbound with Mamta. Write to me at unboundwithamtaa@gmail.com या फिर किसी भी हमारे एपिसोड, स्टोरी, रील या शॉर्ट्स को लाइक, शेयर और सब्सक्राइब करें. Keep watching Unbound with Mamta. May your dreams and ambitions keep growing. You keep contributing to others, beauty, health, fitness, wellness. And this is really beautiful what you are set to do. What have you created as a legacy of work and what you are set to do. And very, very inspiring too. You've truly come unbound. You've really come totally unfiltered, unearthing all aspects of your life. But before we really say that this is the end of the show, which it is not. We do have a very interesting rapid reflex round in which we do a quick volley of questions with our guests and have you answer them in a moment, in a jiffy, in a sentence, or just in a word. Does that work for you, Anuradha?
Absolutely. It does.
Shaking and breaking. So this is the rapid reflex round, and over to you, Anuradha. One word that truly defines happiness for you. One word.
Gratitude. Being grateful.
Yeah. Never have you ever. Complete the sentence for me.
That's difficult.
It should be the easiest. Broken someone's bone.
No. Never have I ever broken anyone's bone.
I put words in your mouth. Yes. Your favorite retreat from the world, from the havoc and the chaos of life is?
Something I look forward to at Esalen Institute in Big Sur in California. I would love to go and be in a retreat there. Yes.
Okay. What is it all about now? You've really brought this up, so might as well tell us.
The Esalen Institute, it's a very, very old institute in California. And a lot of mind, body, energy related work happens there. And amazing, they're very different, not the regular retreats.
Right.
So you have people who are specialized in develop their own style of healing or therapy, and then they conduct. So it's something I want to.
Definitely is on your list.
On my list, yes. That's been two things. One is to attend and also to be able to offer a retreat there.
Yes. Superb. You are not stopping, girl, for sure. One person that, or maybe a character that you have personally taken a lot of inspiration or idealized a lot in life. Could be from history, past, your family's, a fictional character.
My grandfather.
Yeah.
My mother's father, yes.
What way?
Very, very strong, principled man with so much clarity. Sometimes can come across as nasty, obnoxious, but
Yeah.
Very, in those days, he had that kind of clarity. And he last year passed on.
Yeah.
And he had so much clarity about his death also.
Really?
Yes. So prepared for it.
Wow.
He was 96 and he passed on.
Yeah. We briefly spoke around that
Right.
time when he was admitted and all. I
Yes,
think
yes.
you did. All right. One thing which is a must achieve or do for you in this lifetime, like you will not call it the end or quit till then.
One thing I must do, or
Which is your like
Which is-
personal desire? You're not going to stop at anything for that.
my retirement home,
Oh,
which I am still dreaming. I haven't still made it, but it's there. Yes.
in the vision.
In the vision.
In the
yes.
making.
In the making, yes.
Beautiful. One thing that you truly want should not exist in this world, just should be eliminated totally. I know there are many, but something that's deeply personal to you.
Hypocrisy.
Okay.
Just be transparent, open,
Hmm.
like Unbound. just
Yeah.
just if this whole world can be a safe space for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that you think as a skill, tactic, tool, talent, whatever, that women definitely need to grow at.
To love oneself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, self-care, prioritizing yourself will never come.
Hmm.
I think loving yourself is at the core of it.
Yeah.
Celebrating femininity
Hmm.
is very important.
Yeah.
And in making sure that acknowledging there's a masculine energy and a feminine energy, and you please let the masculine energy do its bit rather than we taking on that.
Hmm.
In the race to make both ends meet, a lot of times we forget that we are
Hmm.
there to nourish and nurture, and we must let masculine energy to provide and protect.
Yeah. You should allow.
Should allow.
Don't take so much on yourself.
Don't
girl.
take so much on yourself.
Outsource.
Yes, absolutely.
One thing you would like to tell your 16-year-old self today, sitting where you are with all the rich experiences of life. Something you want to say?
To actually be unbound.
Yeah?
Yes, we had so many restrictions when I was 16. Sometimes I feel I did not live the life of a 16-year-old.
16-year-old.
Just now when I went to Bali with my friends,
That's
I
when you
think
felt
I lived some of the 16.
16 there.
Yes. Yes.
Super. What makes you unstoppable, Anuradha?
So many things. I think I'm very grateful to life, to all that has been given. I think that's what makes me unstoppable. Yes, yes, and my son, of course.
Oh.
Yes, and then Joy. Joy is my
Of course, your
my
pet
lab. Yes, my
lab,
son from another species, I would call it.
another species.
Yes,
We had another species on one of our shows. Do you know that?
really.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's
Zion.
that unconditional love
Yeah.
that I get from him, and I learn a lot from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, the emotional support.
Wow.
It's
Phenomenal.
yes.
Yeah. If not for where you are today, see, this is something I don't know if you can say that you chose, but maybe destiny chose you.
Yes.
But had it been not for where you are today, where do you see yourself, or you could have been, or you would want to still be?
You mean in my professional space,
Yeah, or
personal
just
space,
as the whole human
human-
experience where you are today. Had it been not for where you got into
I would have wanted to live in US.
US.
Yes, I had an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
US was my dream at that time. Very recently also I had some opportunities, but then now I don't have that craze.
Craze or craving.
Now I'm actually very happy.
At peace
At
with
peace.
where you are.
Yes.
One thing you'd like to acknowledge your partner, your husband, for today? where your relationship is? What would you want to say?
He's
What does he do?
He's been as a strong support.
Yeah.
He's never stopped me. You asked me, you're unstoppable.
Yeah.
He never stops me also.
Yeah.
Sometimes I may have made some wrong choices, wrong decisions, but he has stood by me.
Yeah.
Yes, even in the current role that I am coming all the way from South to Delhi. Delhi was nowhere in my radar. But he was the one who actually said, no, you must go.
And what makes you unbound, Anuradha? Something where you walk in and you're not the same person when you walk out of that place. Any such place, environment, process, anything that makes you unbound to that extent?
That would be difficult to put a finger on because there may be a lot of
things.
things
Yeah.
like that.
Anyone
yes.
which is your personal go-to?
There's this Quiet Healing Center
Mm-hmm.
in Pondicherry. I
Okay.
think that is one such place. But yeah, there's lots like
Lots,
that.
yeah.
Right now, I'm not able to think.
Yeah. So that, I mean, coming back to healing and retreats, of course, I'm coming to you with a whole list. Please give me the top 50 in the world to visit.
Absolutely.
So I can also start with my bucket list now. But truly, it's been fabulous speaking to you,
Same here.
knowing you for the human, for the spirit, and for the energy and the person that you are, the
Thank
substance
you.
that you are.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me and being so consistent. You've reached out to me so many times, and sometimes I may have not responded on time also, but thank you so much, and I really wish all the best to what you're doing.
Thank you.
I hope it creates platforms for more and more people who are actually unheard. Yeah,
that's the
thank
whole
you.
idea, to
Yes.
bring out those voices that are unheard, those stories that are untold, and yet those humans who are unstoppable and unfiltered. Let's keep unbounding together.